Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to tonight's night-ending bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below, merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost you a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go, and yes, folks, they do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into tonight's night-ending bonus, shall we? Today's first encounter. It was about 8:30 p.m. while taking out the trash at work with a co-worker roommate. A large dog approached us. It seemed to be galloping. It wasn't walking normally like an animal should. Despite the many surrounding lights, this dog appeared to be entirely black. It was silhouetted just enough that you could see its muscle definition. You could see a slight reflection in its eyes. It seemed to lack a shadow. My roommate and I both expressed having different experiences and visions of the dog. When I initially saw the dog, I interacted saying, "Aw, dog." In excitement for me, it proceeded to sit entirely still on the cement, staring like a statue. What I saw was fluffy, large, black dog, lazy ears, similar to a Newfoundland. My roommate expresses seeing a dog as large, very muscular, aggressive-looking black dog that stood rigid the entire time, staring like it wanted to attack. It was short-haired, muscled, and had pointed ears. I jokingly stated the dog looked like a skinwalker, not really anticipating that anything could happen. Then we immediately felt a wake of dread fall over us. Something was wrong. We both saw this dog's jaw open, almost as if it was about to bark. We heard a distant yet extremely clear, high-pitched "come over here." The dog immediately turned to take off. We turned around the corner. The creature was unreasonably far up the road for such a short period of time that it was not being observed. It was wobbling, crossing its paws, walking oddly. When it turned left around the corner, it seemed to nearly stand on its hind legs, walking on two legs just before passing around out of sight. The rest of the night was just as interesting. We had trouble with certain objects in slightly moving places, nudging a bit, settling. It quickly became more aggressive. But then, just as we were about to leave, we heard a loud and persistent knocking coming from the front of the store. We quickly went to our cars. On the drive home, I tried to blast music and ignore what I had seen. I heard whispering coming from my back seat. I couldn't quite make out any words. It just sounded like whistling almost. But get this, I saw a random antique clawfoot bathtub on the left side of the road in a field. It was certainly not there the day before, or even in the morning drive there. The kicker, I was watching the sidelines of the road for animals, and I most certainly saw a buck. He was leaping out in front of the road a good 50 feet ahead. I slammed on my brakes, but when I got closer, it was merely a bush. Perhaps I was just paranoid, but this was all very concerning. Definitely a creepy experience to start Halloween off with. I mean, you're with your buddy, you're taking out the trash, and you see this very black dog coming at you, large black dog. Yet you both perceive it differently. The only thing is when it leaves, you both definitely see it running bipedally. Wow, that is very strange. Anyway, on to today's first video clip. It actually comes from upstate New York. A guy is having some issues around his land, and his dog starts to just go chaotic. While he's at the other side of the property with a flashlight, you can see the dog in the screen. It'll be right at the very bottom of the video clip. And to the right-hand side, you'll see a light kind of flash periodically. That's the homeowner with the flashlight looking around, trying to figure out what his dog's going nuts over. And then, coming from left to right, you see this black, kind of grayish shadow of a creature with glowing eyes run across his yard. Wow. Check it out. Definitely a very creepy video when you know what's going on. You may see the light on the ground on the right and be like, what's that? But when you know that's the homeowner looking around and you can see the dog, it looks like a Jack Russell, kind of on the deck or whatever, looking out. And then you see this bipedal thing with glowing eyes run towards where the homeowner is. Yet he does not see him. He's almost running along the wood line. So it's very, very creepy. On to tonight's second encounter. My family recently bought a beautiful but overgrown piece of land in British Columbia, Canada. It's a wonderful place. My dad is frustrated with the amount of work we will have to do to live comfortably on our land, but I personally love this little pocket of untouched nature. I thought it was strange that the previous owners seemed to be in a rush to sell this land. I chalked it up to uneven ground and the abundance of plants. My family brought their trailer to the land and were staying in it, while I set up a tent nearby since there wasn't enough room for me. Soon after we started staying there, my dad and I were comfortably sitting around our fire pit stargazing and listening to the sounds of the land, when we started to hear the shrieks of something that was certainly inhuman, but also unlike any animal either of us had ever heard. It was a shrill yet guttural growl that was extremely drawn out and loud. My first guess was that a bear or a cougar had gotten cornered, but listening more closely quickly crushed that assumption. I started to distinguish a growl of a bear, but was not the source of the strange shriek. It soon started to sound like this bear was cornering something, and the threatened creature was trying to make the last-ditch escape while screaming in pain. Now I know you're probably thinking, it must have been a cougar or something, but I've heard cougar in a fight before, and this was not a cougar. Its shrieks and howls sounded almost demonic. Soon after the noises stopped, my dad and I both decided it'd be best to head to bed. While lying in my tent, I started to hear that unmistakable sound of a large creature roaming around our site. After approaching, I heard it settle into place, almost like it was sitting down and getting comfortable. I started to worry that unidentifiable creature from earlier was stalking me, till I worked up the courage to peek out of my tent's window. In the spot I heard the creature approach, I saw not a horrifying monstrosity, but a beautiful black bear. I would normally be afraid upon seeing this, except I made eye contact with the bear and felt an overwhelming sense of safety. I know it sounds crazy, but it almost felt like the bear was watching over us, protecting us from something. Soon after noticing the bear, I heard this blood-curdling screech of an unidentifiable creature getting much closer. When the bear heard this, it tensed up, brought itself to its feet, and began to growl menacingly. Only a moment after the bear began to growl, I heard a much larger creature than the bear run in the opposite direction. I swung my head to see where the noise was coming from and got a glance of an incredibly large, dog-like animal. I didn't get a good look at it. I remember seeing long arms and its legs ending in kind of feet with claws. It was also covered in very dark fur with a blood-like substance on it, implying that it had been injured recently. When I saw this, my breath was caught in my throat, and I could not force myself to look away. I saw the trees sway and break where it was running, and then it stopped a far distance from our land and let out one more shriek. The few birds that were awake in the area flew in fear, and I shuddered. I looked back to the bear, and it was once again sitting, looking at me, with this kind of protective look in its eyes. I've never been more grateful to have a bear living nearby, and I no longer fear them, but respect them. Man, that story reminds me of Captain. That the bear was named Captain, and it fought off this Dogman to keep this family safe. Truly, truly an amazing kind of relationship between human and bear. Very interesting. Anyway, the next video is what I believe to be a feral person. Some may say crawler or whatnot, but this thing, when it's running, you can make out pieces of, it is kind of flailing its arms like a video clip that crawler does when it's running. But this just doesn't feel like a crawler to me. Check it out and you guys decide.
That's pretty cool, man.
I wanted it to go up in the air, man.
But it's still cool.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
did you hear that?
Yeah, you go first. Big farm animal.
I don't like this. Good luck, good luck. What do you think it is?
Can you flash off a little bit?
Whatever it is, I see it.
Should I throw fireworks at it?
It's just your face. What the hell, man? You ready to go first? Go You know what I mean?
is that? Do you hear that? Do you hear that? What is that? Dude, what is that? Dude, we need to get the hell out of here.
Go get it.
I'm not getting near that. I'm not getting near that. Dude, we gotta get the hell out of here.
Throw a firework at it?
No. Run. Dude, what? Is it still there? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-uh. Uh-uh. Go! No! Run! Run! We got his car. What the f***?
Dude, come on!
What the hell? What the hell?
Man, that is just absolutely strange. The shrieks are terrifying, and then seeing this creature is even more terrifying. And just because the word feral human or feral person or human is attached to the word feral does not make them human at all. They are the least thing of a human. I don't care what anyone says. I don't think they are human. I think they are a cryptid, and I think they're dangerous. So, anyway, on to today's third experience. So, my family has owned this land in Georgia since the 80s, and my dad and his family take vacations up there. It's completely secluded from any form of city or other life. You have to drive at least 2 miles on a gravel road to reach another house. Tight, narrow woods all around. A few more houses have sprung up since my childhood and made it less scary to stay there. Anyway, this entire experience starts from all the way back to my dad staying there. The place was a simple trailer across the gravel road led straight to the top of the mountain the trailer was on. My dad would go up there a lot and just sit. He told me an experience one time when he was sitting up there, when he was a teenager, and he heard heavy crackling, something that sounded identical to a human. But remember, this is far away from any other houses or civilization at that. This was basically my family's land. He said the first crackling came from behind him. The next thing, it was in front of him. He said he had stood up and screamed, "Get the F out of here." And he said the footsteps disappeared. He didn't hear anything walk off. The footsteps that sounded right behind him and in front had just vanished. They were gone. He sprinted home and was terrified to go back into the woods that day. Now it's my turn to go up the mountain. My dad didn't share his experience with me until after this. I'm with my buddy, and Netflix had just added the download movies to watch later thing on their app, but the trailer has zero service at all. My dad says, maybe you can walk to the top, and because there are less trees, maybe you'll get good enough reception. We end up climbing to the top, and the same thing that happened to my dad starts happening. First, footsteps that sound heavy behind us and then in front of us. But then it starts to sound like we are being surrounded. We're terrified. Then we hear turkey gobbles far away, which, in retrospect, was wild because footsteps sounded closer and heavier than the turkey. And so our nerves are eased just for a second because us teenagers could take on a flock of turkeys, right? But then what sounded like right in front of the trees, we heard something sound like my dad, almost. But it was a bit different. It was nasally somehow. I didn't have time to really process that it was my dad's voice at the moment. I was just thinking somebody said, hey, in front of us. And rural Georgia, after hearing surrounding footsteps all around us, we booked it down the hill and back to the trailer, not really telling if the footsteps were following us or not. It was truly a fight or flight situation. It wasn't until we got back that my friend said, did you hear the voice? didn't it sound like your dad a bit? My mind was racing. I ran inside the trailer to see if my dad was inside, and sure enough he was. I asked him if he went to the top of the mountain, and he did not. Thinking better, it made no sense for the voice to come from in front of us, since my dad would only be behind us. I told him what we had heard, and that's when he told me his experience of what happened to him when he was a teenager. He didn't know anything about cryptids at the time, but I had the internet and always wondered what I heard. Another experience from the same place. The living room is basically surrounded by windows. I always hated it because we didn't have blinds or curtains at all. And I always got the sense that something or someone was watching me at one point or another. Side note, I always hated going here. It creeped me out. I was generally terrified. I never wanted to go when I was a kid. Continuing, one night as a kid I saw the shadow in the blinds of something probably just slightly shorter than the entire trailer walking outside on two legs. It was very skinny in some parts. My parents made me sleep in the living room on a sofa a lot. On the outside of the house there were lights, which were always turned on, and we had our own orange street lamp. The vision of it walking from in front of me to literally right behind me. The only thing separating me from it was a window that the couch was against. I was frozen with fear. It's literally something you never want to experience again. It's trauma-inducing. Your heart races. Every hair on your body stands on end, not knowing whether you should just close your eyes and wait to die, or stare and just hope it goes away. It ended up walking past the window and didn't come back into my view, thankfully. It just walked past the two windows with curtains. I could have died that night. I have a relatively small experience that just one time while we were fishing near the creek near our place, we had various rocks and sticks thrown at us, but we brushed it off as falling limbs and stuff rolling down the hill. But now I'm wondering if it's something more. And today's final video clip is one that I've seen people post, and I'm not really sure. I saw one channel claim that it was a Dogman. Another claimed that it was probably a crawler of some sorts. But to me, I think maybe it's a feral person. They say, the girls that take the video say, what is she doing? And how it's digging is just absolutely insane. And to dig a hole that large with your bare hands, you have to have some strength behind you. And, well, you guys decide.
Oscillating multi-tool features patented to detect oscillation technology, which combines speed and control all in one tool. It's the only oscillating tool.
That looks like she's digging with her hands.
Digging for what?
Digging with her hands.
How does it?
What is that?
Is not an option. Watch the CMG Music Awards.
What are you doing?
Now I shine like a diamond in the most awarded minivan of the year. Looking good. I also struggle with parallel park now minivan. But thanks to the available parallel and perpendicular park assist system,
Super weird.
Freshly dug hole.
Oscillating multi-tool features patented to detect oscillation technology, which combines speed and control all in one tool. It's the only oscillating tool.
That looks like she's digging with her hands.
Digging for what?
Digging with her hands.
How does it?
What is that?
Is not an option. Watch the CMG Music Awards.
What are you doing?
Now I shine like a diamond in the most awarded minivan of the year. Looking good. I also struggle with parallel park now minivan. But thanks to the available parallel and perpendicular park assist system,
Super weird.
Freshly dug hole.
I'm not even going to guess what that thing is. It's definitely chilling. And even if it isn't a Dogman, some sort of crawler, cryptid, feral person, even if it's just some meth head, crackhead, whatever, it's terrifying. Because that's absolutely insane. That hole that they dug. I mean, come on now. Wow. All right, on to tonight's final experience. About a month ago, I had moved to my somewhat bustling city of Rome, Georgia, to a somewhat quiet area of Grant, Alabama, to be with my newlywed wife. Grant is located a little way away from Guntersville in a mountainous area. I really don't know how to describe it, but we're in the mountains a little. Anyway, a few days ago, I'm heading over to my sister-in-law's friend's house. Let's call him Dave. Dave allowed me to come over and go fishing at the pond on his property, so I went, loaded up my fishing pole, and went. When I got there, only my sister-in-law was there, but told me that she and her husband were about to leave for a little bit, and I could stay as long as I wanted. So I started to make my way down to the pond. It's practically surrounded by woods. The path to get to the pond is not surrounded by woods. You can see the pond clearly from Dave's back porch, so I really wasn't afraid to walk down there alone. I get to the pond and start doing my thing, trying to catch some fish. My wife has a dog named Mistletoe, and my sister-in-law opened up to take care of him. So I'm sitting there on the bank of the pond fishing and petting Mistletoe when I start to get a sort of uneasy feeling. The sun had just disappeared below the treetops, and it's starting to get a little dark. While sitting on the bank, the uneasy feeling turned into a feeling of being watched. I couldn't shake that feeling. I turned and looked toward the tree line and didn't see anything, so I tried to calm myself down a little, just to try to enjoy myself. That's when Mistletoe starts to growl. It was a low growl that just tipped the balance from me feeling somewhat okay to, yep, I'm in danger. I look across the pond to see two solid yellow eyes that are glowing, like actually glowing, not just shining the sun's reflection. Mistletoe just goes off and starts raising Cain, just going absolutely berserk. This figure stood up and started walking toward me on its hind legs. It looked like a coyote almost, but much bigger and able to walk like a human. It started to go around the right side of the pond, leaving the path to the house open to the left, so I saw an opportunity to escape, and I took it. I sprinted up toward the hill, back to the house. When I got to the house, I went inside and locked the doors and windows and stayed there for a bit. I sometimes went to the window to look outside, but every time I did, I could see it, and it appeared to be looking dead at me. Realizing I had my gun in my car, I decided to make a mad dash for my car. If it came at me and I wasn't able to escape, I was going down with a fight. So I mustered up the courage and ran to the car. I had made it to my car and immediately reached under the driver's seat and pulled out my gun and cocked it. And then I noticed that this thing was looking around one corner of the house. I didn't decide to wait any longer and threw the car in reverse, backed it out of there as fast as I could. Like I said in the experience, it had yellow glowing eyes and looked almost exactly like a coyote, except it was walking on its hind legs. It appeared to be 8 or 9 feet, extremely matted fur like it had been rolling in the mud. I have no idea if this is a Dogman or something else. Alright folks, some very terrifying experiences and some very interesting video evidence. I hope you all enjoyed tonight's night ending bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. Your support is what makes the channel continue to grow and go, and honestly what makes it special. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. Keeping an eye on our children, our pets, our family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and they are dangerous. Share this information with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.